I think my advice to young people is you never want to do something on the spur of the moment. You don't want to jump too quickly. That doesn't mean you should sit around and waste your whole life and never realize when something's not going to happen or when the opportunity's not going to be presented. But every time I thought about leaving Solomon, I stopped and said, I'm learning a lot. And even though I might have been able to make more money elsewhere, it was a great firm. They were scrupulously honest, phenomenally competent, worked very hard, very nice to me. I always decided to stay. I don't think I ever seriously, other than maybe a little Walter Mitty dream now and then, I don't think I ever seriously ever thought of leaving. And it turned out to be great. I can say nothing but good things about them, even when them firing me was the right thing. One of the ways, incidentally, Stephanie, to really get ahead is to give credit to somebody else. When I say, oh, I didn't do it, Lloyd did that, and he involved me, let me tell you, I'm telling everybody it's me as well, but I've now made a friend, and you respect me because I've shared the credit. And if you say, no, me, I, nobody likes you. And nobody respects you, and they think you are exaggerating everything. But to the extent you give credit to elsewhere, the thought of, are they exaggerating, doesn't even come up. And I'm a big delegator in terms of a management style. If you're going to run a 24/7 organization, you have to do that. Anybody that tries to centralize everything through themselves or through their staff really is making a terrible mistake. But that's why lots of businesses don't work, and that's why lots of governments don't work, because they do exactly that. The only thing that you can control that influences success in life is how hard you work, how honest you are, and how well you deal with others. You can control those variables. You can't control how lucky you are, although the more you work, the luckier you get. You have no influence on the intellectual capabilities that God did or did not give you, but you can work as hard as possible. You can be scrupulously honest so that people respect you, and you can get along with others because nobody does anything by themselves. Well, I think that everything is an either or. There is a price in everything. You can study or you can go out and play. You can defer to others or you can try to hog the credit. You can be honest and suffer the consequences, or you can lie, cheat, and steal, and short term, maybe even advance. But long term, you are better off if you work harder, you are better off if you're honest, and you are better off if you give others credit and get them to help you by helping them. The answer of either or is invariably yes. You can't go all in one direction. You cannot walk away from your family for your career. On the other hand, if you walk away from your career for your family, you're not going to have the money to support the family. And parents all the time are making those kinds of choices between career and family. They do some of both, and you try to blend the two, and that may not be the perfect answer, but that's a practical answer that I've always told young people when they go off to college. You have to study and you have to get good grades, but you certainly should have a good time as well, because that's part of your growing up experience, and there's no point in leading life to suffer all the time. You want to enjoy life as well as the next person. So it's some balance, some blend between the two. I went to Hopkins to study physics, and it turned out there was a German requirement, so after 30 days I became an engineer where there was no language requirement. And I think, looking back, an engineering background was perhaps the transformative thing in my life, because in science, and it would have worked if I stayed as a physicist too, I suppose, in science you have to be able to look in a mirror and answer the question. You can't just say something and believe it. You have to be able to show people that you're right. The essence of science is that somebody else independently can verify what you claim you saw. And that discipline of not just taking people's word for it, or not just automatically falling into what's generally accepted, has forced me to step back and say why, and to question. And if you question why we're doing things, I think you'll find yourself targeting your energies much more efficiently, appropriately, and in a much more satisfying way. So somebody says, well, this works. Well, that may be, but, stop and think. Does it make any common sense to you? Listen to what people are telling you to do. Think about what they say in the newspaper. Does it make any sense? Do you want to be part of it? Could you do it better? So it's that mental discipline of questioning, which I guess is the scientific method. I think it's not just for companies. I think it's for governments and everybody else. People want recognition and respect. And whether you do it by giving them free food and nice offices, whether you do it by always giving them the credit when somebody says, why does it go along? I always make a point when I walk into a building, I shake the hands of the security people at the door. If it wasn't for them, the rest of us wouldn't be able to go in and conduct our business. They're just as important as the head of the company. I think we have too many distinctions between people, and the egalitarian concept that America was built around, I think, really works. And at Bloomberg, I abolished all titles. There's no titles in the company. On my card, it never said anything. It just said Michael Bloomberg and address and phone number. And in those days, you didn't even have email addresses. Today, they continue with that process. Everybody knows who they work for. There is a hierarchy. You have to have a hierarchy. You have to have structure. But that doesn't mean that we should have, every time we introduce somebody, something that distinguishes and says that one person is more important than the other. In city government, you can't quite do that because they're built into the structure is different, and the requirements to use titles is different. But in the private sector, to the extent that you can include everybody in this room and around the world that works for Google, I would argue do it. That's what we do at Bloomberg. To the extent that you can make people be happy and to come to work and want to be there. In the end, luck plays a very important part in how successful you are, but the harder you work and the longer you work, the luckier you're going to be. So you want people to want to come in early in the morning and want to stay late. You want people to, if they want to take some time off for family obligations, that's fine, but you want them to want to come back. And I think if you take a look, you're never going to please everybody. Bloomberg has about 9,500 employees, maybe 120 offices around the world. And there'll always be somebody that isn't happy, but fundamentally we have a very low turnover rate. And I think whenever you have intellectual content as the basis of your business, and certainly Google does, and certainly Bloomberg does, the most important asset you have are the people that leave at night and come in the morning. And so that's where your focus should be. Work hard. You're going to need some luck, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. And if it doesn't work out, that's not the end of the world. I just don't have anything in common with people that sit there and say, oh my God, it was terrible. It was terrible. It's water over the dam, under the bridge. Get on with it and start another business the next day or another career. And be honest, look in a mirror and say, why didn't it work out? Well, it wasn't the skill set, or I didn't have the temperament for it, or I was in the wrong place, wrong time. Maybe I can afford to do it again, maybe I can't. But people aren't honest with themselves. What I've always done is I've taken a yellow pad, I draw a line down the middle, write out the pros on one side, the cons on another, in a sense that if I let you see it, you wouldn't laugh at me. And then when I get done, I just rip it up and throw it away, because I've worked out in my mind what is real and what isn't, and what I can present to people and what I can't. This goes back to my Boy Scout days, is be prepared. I know what you're thinking. You're already prepared. You've mapped out the rest of your life, the rest of your education, postgraduate work, residences, fellowships, clerkships, and you're going to have a long, meaningful career. You have all of your plans already laid down. That's not the preparation I am talking about, because let me tell you, the likelihood of you winding up 10 years from now doing what you think you're going to be doing 10 years from now is probably less than 1 in 10. The truth of the matter is, you don't know what opportunities are going to be presented to you. You don't know where you're going to succeed and where you're going to fail. The careers that you wind up in are invariably going to be very different. So what I would do is I would focus on how I interact with people, how I approach problems. I would get involved in government. If you want to go into public service, I would recommend you first become a billionaire, but that's another issue. You're going to spend your entire life doing something different than what you think. And the good news is that Dartmouth is preparing you for that, because while you think they're individual subjects, what they're really teaching you to do is to think and to reason and to build relationships. And that's what's going to carry you